never had a chance to play music till after I married and moved here and my children all left. So Gordon, my husband, he bought me a banjo at a pawn shop while he was off work. He brought it home one weekend. He wanted me to learn to play it because I always loved banjo. And at that time there was no women that did play banjos around here, which that wouldn't have made any difference, but I love banjo. Mother went out on a party, left at home her baby son, cried and begged her not to leave him. She would not give up her fun. She kissed his cheeks and tried to soothe him. He did not, his jollies played. Heard him call as she was leaving. Please, Mama, please stay home with me.
The Missouri Ozarks are a unique and diverse region located in the southern part of the state. Although there are many major urban centers in the Missouri Ozarks, the region is still largely rural and largely poor. Old-time music, an important aspect of many Ozark communities, has often been dismissed as a mere imitation of Appalachian music. But contrary to popular opinion, the music is its own unique style. French, German, African American, and Native American music greatly influenced old-time music in the region, as well as Irish and Scotch. Old-time music in the Ozarks is an oral tradition, including both folk songs and fiddle tunes. Fiddle tunes, which include hoedowns and waltzes, are closely tied to dance. While many musicians have abandoned their roots in old-time music for the more performance-oriented bluegrass and modern country genres, women have been at the forefront of continuing old-time music. This film is about these women, both past and present, and the important roles of old-time music in the Ozarks today. This is Branson, Missouri, considered the second country music capital of the world and one of the biggest tourist destinations in the U.S. Although Branson lies in the heart of the Ozarks, in most ways it lies a world apart from the people and traditions there. Resentment toward Branson is felt by many old-time musicians because of the city's emphasis on modern country music at the expense of other regional musical traditions. Negative stereotypes of Ozark people are continually shown in Branson's Vegas-style shows, theme parks, and billboards.
Run, 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 run on James, dirty old James, James, dirty old James.
The worst thing in the world are stereotypes, and they're even people come here from the east or other places. They may be some of the best writers there is for some of the most prestigious publications, but you've got to watch what they write because they've grown up with Little Abner, the Beverly Hillbillies, Ma and Pa Kettle, Judy Canova and all that, which was all the stereotypical, in some respects, maybe not completely, but of this region, just like I have stereotypes of New York and the Italians, the Mafia and all that, you know. And it's just, it just takes time.
So do you think that the tourism industry in Branson has had, by and large, a good effect in Ozarks?
Economically, yeah. Say I'm getting older, and as you get older, you get more provincial, and you get where you don't like change. And I'm getting to where I'll frown on this or that, you know, which my grandparents probably would have frowned on if it's something I didn't think anything about, you know. Economically, it's been fine, but of course our population is just exploding. And I always wonder on the economics, everybody's making more money. Well, a big percentage of the people that are making more money weren't here before.
Do you think that the music in the Ozarks has been a really good way of preserving the culture?
It used to be.
Not so anymore.
Uh-uh. It's all centered around money now. I can remember when there wasn't a thing out on 76 except the Ball Knobbers and the Presleys. And that's all there was. And then you go 4 or 5 miles and then it'd be our new church house. Well, all these big stars started coming in and just, they took over. Like the Layton homestead down there that's been in the Layton family since the 1850s. There's been numerous times the city of Branson has tried to take that land from them and do what they wanted to. First they wanted to do an airport, and then they wanted to do something else. And they would have just forced them off that land. And it's just the people who aren't as well known who preserve the old time music. The big name people down there bring their own and then belittle a lot of the hill people way.
In terms of old-time music around here, old-time mountain music, traditional music, what do you see as the differences between old-time and bluegrass as they are today?
Okay, old-time music, as I see it, tends to be different in a couple of ways. One, you hear more straightforward, melodic melodies with maybe just one accompaniment instrument or maybe none. Maybe just a melody instrument like the dulcimer by itself or the dulcimer with fiddle. Whereas in bluegrass, you see a typical bluegrass band as having more instruments, the fiddle, the banjo, the guitar, the bass, the mandolin. Bluegrass, of course, is known for that high lonesome sound, and I think that is true. And I think the old-time musicians tend to sing where it's more comfortable and within their voice range. And if they don't necessarily have that high voice quality, then they don't push for it like in bluegrass bands. The old-time sound tends to be more a straight melody too, with maybe one other harmony part, but maybe no other harmony, whereas the bluegrass is notorious for the 3-part harmony. I think bluegrass has gotten more into a channel of being a listener's music, whereas the old-time music is more a participation music where a person playing the banjo may be dancing at the same time. Yeah, it's very danceable music, a little bit slower tempo, and just has that groove that makes it danceable.
For I would be his bride with a kiss for a lifetime fee, but I have nothing to him, though he's the world to me.
I think the Irish influence is pretty much of a overblown thing. In fact, I believe Alan Jabbour was at the Library of Congress, I guess. A friend of mine, he's a folklorist, who was telling me about this talk that Jabbour recently gave, and was talking about many of the traditional American fiddle tunes were written here. Written or made up or whatever. But there are a certain number of tunes that, there are Irish or Scottish versions of them, and you can kind of hear a passage in the melody that's very similar, the American version related to the Irish-Scottish version. I think there were probably just a lot of Irish-Scottish people who immigrated here, and they played the fiddle, and You know, of course, they probably brought some of those tunes with them. Same with the songs. Of course, there are a lot of old world ballads that came over. But many of the songs were written here. So.
Fiddling mostly was a man's deal. So the instrumentation, in fact, most of the instrumentation period was a man's deal. Women were chained to the stove and the house. They didn't get to go anywhere. They had the kids, they had the laundry, and they had the stove. And they had tedious chores that took all time. And if you were bending over a wash tub all day long, you needed to occupy your mind. And so I think the women became the keepers of the songs because their work was certainly hard, but they weren't back-breaking and you know, driving mules, and where maybe you had to concentrate a little bit more. If you were snapping peas, or if you were cleaning fish, or if you were husking corn, or if you were cooking, you had time for your mind to think of other things, or you'd go crazy.
The social connotation entered in greatly in that it was valid for the guys to go out on Saturday night and play music and play for the dances, whereas if someone had to stay at home to take care of the family, it was probably the girls' place to stay at home. It was not a socially acceptable thing for years for the girls to go out and play music and dance.
So you come back again, you say, the same old love is growing.
Because the majority of female musicians traditionally played only within the home, it's very difficult to get an accurate idea of their numbers. It can be said with certainty, however, that female musicians and instrumentalists were far more common than we realize. These little recognized women continue to serve as invaluable teachers and role models for future generations of Ozark women.
Come again to me, since time at last has set you free.
Now that little mountain church house has become my life's cornerstone. It was there in that little mountain church house I first heard the word to base my life upon.
My grandmother was a great influence on my life. She was a role model, really. She was a musician, and she played the organ, and she taught in a singing school back in those days. She taught three-part harmony, and she taught me so much about life and music. I used to sit on the organ stool, and she'd play the organ. She taught me some pieces on the organ. She taught me the song, The Old Spinning Wheel. That was the first time I'd heard it, and she had this old spinning wheel in her living room that had belonged to her mother, and now I have the spinning wheel in my living room today. She taught me many old songs, and I used to sit on the front porch with her in the evening, and we'd play, and her brothers would come down, and they'd bring their fiddles, and they'd play way into the night. I think that the old-time music, the songs tell a story about real life. I know there are a lot of sad songs, but it's real life, you know, things that happened in their life, maybe the loss of a baby, or sickness in the family, or the work that they did. A lot of the songs are about work that they did, and they used to sing the songs as they worked. Like my father used to sing the old songs while he was whittling out an axe handle, and all those old songs tell a story about the Ozarks, things that really happened. My grandmother always sang Little Rosewood Casket, and I think her mother taught it to her. And it's a beautiful old song. Go and bring them to me, sister. Read them for me tonight. I have often tried, but I could not, for those tears that dim my eyes. When I'm dead and in my casket, when I gently fall
songs I remember most about Grandma singing was the one "Money, Marbles, and Chalk." I remember singing when it's time for the whip. I call it just the whippoorwill song. When it's time for the whippoorwills to sing, I think is the real name of it. And I've got those on original. Oh, they're kind of brown now. File cards where Grandma has handwritten those off, but she had beautiful handwriting, so I want to kind of keep it that way. And then hearing her sing her songs. Her songs were written from the heart. It's things she really felt, like the song "Ozark Hills." She was, and I'd heard the story, and of course, you know, she was real sick with cancer the last 3 months before she passed away. And I talked to her again on one of her better days and said, "Grandma, tell me again exactly, you know, what brought about the writing of that song." And she told me, of course, she lived, when they originally moved, it's called Gardner Valley officially, that's my maiden name. Of course, her name is Verna Gardner. She said she was doing dishes and looking out the window, it was a beautiful day. And all of a sudden, the notion hit her, she wanted to go way up high on the hill. And she said she just stopped right in the middle of her dishes, later dried her hands, and took off. And went up the top of the hill where she could see. She was looking back toward the old evening shade schoolhouse where she had lived on the other side of it, way off more back toward Almartha. But she had went to school there, and Grandpa had went to school there too. And she said she was just awed at it was so quiet and peaceful at the beauty of everything. And so these words just started coming to her. And she was like, "Oh, I might forget." She didn't have anything to write with. She's afraid she might forget it before she got back to the house. And so she headed back, and quick as she could, got pencil and paper and started writing it down. So it just hit her. I mean, when she left, I don't think she had a clue that she was going to go up there and think of a song. And then she put it to music.
You may sometimes stray to a distant land, let it be wherever it will. Although you may roam, be a long time gone, you'll remember the Ozark Hills. We're just plain folks in the Ozarks. We seek neither fortune nor fame. Of course, in the world's bright spotlight, you'd scarcely there look for our name. But we're wealthy in our possession of things that money can't buy. So we'll stay in the good old Ozarks till we go to the sweet by and by.
Thank you. That's always been, you know, they've requested it quite a bit at the festival and stuff like that, and it's always been a hard one for me to sing. I really have to kick in the control because, you know, right there at the last, all I can think about is Grandma. And I cry when I'm happy, and I cry when I'm, you know, when I'm sad or touched, you know, or something like that. But it's hard. I made it, though, this time. It's a little easier than the last time, so.
My mama has told me, of course I don't remember, I was too small, but she said they used to stand me up on a stump when they were out working in the garden or something, you know, and then she taught me this song. So I've never heard anybody else sing it exactly like this. I don't know where it originated or anything, but she sang to me when I wasn't very big. Pretty Little Miss. As I went over yonder's hill where it is so thick and grassy, I met up with pretty little miss that talked to me so sassy. Rattle-lumpa-doo, oh doo, oh doo, oh rattle-lumpa-doo, oh dandy. How old are you, my pretty little miss? How old are you, my honey? She answered back with a tee-hee-hee. I'll be 16 next Sunday. Rattle-lumpa-doo, oh doo, oh doo, oh rattle-lumpa-doo, oh dandy. And I guess I would have to say I began learning the first music from my mother when she was, you know, when I was little. She was part Indian way back there, not a lot, but a little bit of Indian, and she liked to sing some of the little old Indian songs and things like that, you know. My aunt was the same way, but she played a guitar, and in fact, she's the one that helped me learn what I know on the guitar. We were on the farm to raise our family, and it was so busy and so hectic through the years that it was always in the back of my mind, but I never had a chance to do anything. Then when we retired in 1985, I decided that was when I wanted to get into the music a little bit more. And since then, I've learned to play the fiddle. Community, and I've played several years down at the Ozark Folk Center in Mountain View, Arkansas. And of course, Gordon McCann, he always, you know, encourages people, and he's asked me several times to play at the Fiddle Green fiddle thing in Springfield through the Ozark music. And I call my music Ozark mountain music. I love to sing with the bluegrassers, but I love to sing with the old type music too, you know.
Our dad liked music real well. He would go about his work singing, yodeling the Jimmy Rogers songs, you know. And he bought the instruments so we could learn to play. He wanted us, you know, so he bought the fiddle and the guitar.
And how did you learn the songs that you sang? How did you?
A lot of it was local, and then also from the radio stations, KOAM and KWTO in Springfield, all the barn dances at Chicago, at Nashville, at Louisiana, all around.
When we were young, they played, you know, around the old stove in the back of the grocery stores. They did that. Of course, we were a little bit young to do it then, but our brother did, you know, he was a little older than us. And he liked to play and watch them, you know, and he learned a lot by doing that. And then there was a black man, which we learned a lot from him, and he was very, very good. And he played the mandolin, he played the guitar, and he played the piano. And he was awful good on that piano, too.
His name was Cal
Jefferson. And he was, in fact, he was a friend to
George
Washington Carver. I couldn't remember his first name.
That's
I knew
right.
the last, but
I was married in 1950. Ruth was married in 1951, and so we stayed at home till the children were grown, you know. And my husband passed away in 1982. And so our brother, he went to these music shows around, and he urged us to go back with him.
Start playing again.
And
yeah.
play, and we did.
When he was living, we played mostly local, you know, but we've reached out, you know, now further. We go, you know, into other states sometimes.
Well, now about the fiddle, there weren't that many women playing
No.
the fiddle at all.
No.
The women never played fiddle very much back in the early days. And they're just now beginning to play, women are.
So did you feel, when you picked it up, did you feel strange about
I
it?
didn't, because there was another girl here
yes.
that played too. And I don't know of anybody else around, but she played, and I didn't feel out of place at all.
I'm getting warm.
Back in that day and time, fiddling was kind of just not appropriate for ladies. The violin was, and if they played, you know, hymns and songs and music like in your home, that was okay. But as far as fiddling was concerned, it had kind of gotten associated with a lot of dancing and drinking, and my dad being a very firm Scotch Protestant was definitely not in favor of that kind of lifestyle. So I think he just thought it was not the thing to do to teach his daughters fiddling. Maybe. That's my assessment of it, at least.
And then what was your reaction to that? When did you decide that that was really something you wanted to do?
Well, like I said, when Bob restored my fiddle and told me that I should start learning some tunes, by this time, very definitely, the culture had changed considerably. And by this time, there were lots of those conventions and gatherings of fiddlers from all over that made up really kind of a social network. And it was a different climate altogether. So it was quite appropriate. However, I have not come across very many women fiddlers who are really good fiddlers.
Right.
There was a lady in St. Louis, Vesta Johnston was a good fiddler. And, do you remember her? And many of the younger female fiddlers are contestants. You know, they've learned their fiddling in their music, their violinist work in school, and then they go into contests and learn fiddle tunes just simply to win the money. You know, so they're not, in my estimation, bona fide fiddlers. Violet Hensley down in Yellville, Arkansas is probably a real prime example of a genuine old fiddler. She raised 13 children, or had 13 children, and made 45 fiddles out of her cherry trees on the place and this, that, and the other, and fiddled. But she did the actual old-time fiddling, too. It wasn't the smooth waltz type stuff. It was the hoedown fiddling.
My dad played the fiddle. He made his fiddle. All the boys played. Uncle Sam was the oldest one, and he was, I don't know how much older than my dad, but when my dad was 14, Uncle Sam wouldn't let him play his fiddle. And so he said somebody's made him and I can too. And he took a board and sawed out the shape of a fiddle, or marked out the shape of a fiddle, and his sides he'd nail a nail on this side and that side and this side, and that's how he bent the sides. So he told me, when that was in 1888. He didn't get married till he was up in his 30s. So he was 60 when I got married. And just had us 3 girls. My mother died when I was 11. I didn't have a stepmother. And we grew up as boys. But when I was 13, I was playing some square dances, so I don't know exactly when I started playing fiddle. We started playing like Soldier's Joy.
And did your dad show you how, or did you kind of pick it up and teach yourself?
Sometimes I'd be, I'd pick up the fiddle and I'd try to learn it, and he'd take it and show me a note I was missing, and mostly I just got it by ear, and I could, just like my granddaughter Carissa can do. You didn't have to show her. You just, if you played it, her ear would just catch it. I finally got to playing a little, and then after playing for the square dances, I got married in 1935, and I didn't play any more fiddle for 27 years. I hung this fiddle. I didn't have a case. Still got my bow, but it's been broken and mended at both ends. And I forgot a lot of the tunes, and I almost forgot several of the others, but I had to get my timing back on them. We had what called play parties. A lot of the people wouldn't let their girls go to square dance, but they let them go play parties, which wasn't much difference in it. They all danced with the boys just the same. There's all together just the same. I don't know what made the difference, but they called it play parties. And we'd play Skip to Maloo is one of the tunes played there. And then, of course, they'd play games, too. Like, Skip just... I'm way back there, so I heard that it was a disgrace for a woman to play the fiddle. That was just not for a woman to play the fiddle. But when I was learning, I don't know whether it's a disgrace or not. My dad didn't tell me it was, so.
So you didn't know?
They just so far back in the woods.
He just let me play the fiddle. My mother's sister played the fiddle. I don't know if any of my dad's sisters played the fiddle or not.
Most all men had a pocket knife and a fiddle, and that was their possession. And I went to contests when women didn't have a chance. These judges, they would not. I don't care how well that woman could play, they would not have a chance. And I've heard little tidbits from them, you know. Well, it wasn't too bad, but for a woman, things like that. Gene Wells one time said, if I have to lose to a woman, I just soon it'd be you. You know, things like that. And, well, if they played like a man, or just, I've heard those kind of things, you know. And I just didn't usually let it bother me too much. Mac Behan used to, he wouldn't hardly talk to a person, but he mellowed along in his later years. He really mellowed and would sit and talk to me like you are. But I can remember when he wouldn't.
You had said that your mother played. Did she play fiddle or did she play something else?
Oh, she played fiddle. Mm-hmm. She's 99.
And she's still living?
She's still living. But she gets her fiddle out once in a while, but she doesn't really play. Has a hard time at thinking of tunes. But
now, how did she learn?
Just like I did, I guess.
From her dad or from her mom? Or?
No.
Just around?
Her mother, and her dad, neither one played, but she had some uncles, some brothers. And then this old Ray Melrose was his name. It was a cousin. He might have been around her. I don't know. I never did hear her say just how she did learn. And then when my dad and her got married, I'm sure she learned a little bit. But there was times when my dad didn't have a fiddle. There was just times when he either couldn't afford the hair and the bow or couldn't afford strings, you know. And they was married in 1918, I think it was.
So now when you and your father were playing out at square dances, did your mother play out too? Or?
She'd play, a lot of times if there was a piano there, she'd play out, chord the piano. Mm-hmm. And she might play a tune. But it was funny, my dad was very, well, like most men.
Traditional?
Yeah, strict, you know, with the girls. And I could go someplace and I could maybe be having a little fun, but then it was, oh, no, don't get out there too, you know, he'd like his purse strings was, don't get out here too far. So that's kind of what I had to contend with. I know he was proud of what I did, but he would never show it. And he, you know, he always had those strings, apron strings or whatever, that pulled me back. Don't get out here and cut up too much.
Right.
And, but there was other women throughout Missouri that could play.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you learned to make fiddles, and was it just mostly from your dad?
Well, it was all from him, from watching and observing what he done, because nobody else made a fiddle in the community that I know of. The getting around that way, didn't have nothing else to do, and so Dad would, evenings after it'd come a rain, too wet to plow, which didn't last very long. He was soon ready to plow again. And in the wintertime, he'd work on a fiddle by the fireplace. He finally developed a form like I have, so I'm not got it here showing, but to bend the sides inside. A piece goes on the outside, and a piece, it's in two pieces, 4 pieces. You put this half of the sides between 2 pieces and clamp them together, and this half, and then when you get them joined at these corners, then you put the two together. Out here's got a place to fasten them together. Take off the center clamps. Then you put in an end block in each end of the fiddle, which holds the sides together. When I was 15, I told Dad one day I wanted to make a fiddle. He said, "There's the wood and the tools, just go after it." That's number 4, number 6, number 35, number 38. Right there.
Oh, wow.
That's, I made all of them.
So how long does it take you to make one?
Long time. Used to be about, well, I don't know what, I got that in dated August 1934, but that's the month I wish. You could make one in 3 or 4 weeks if you worked at it every day, and but it takes about 260 hours. Good 260 hours to work on one. Get it in good shape.
Horse! Move your horse! Horse! Be careful! Are you hurting? Yes. Come between the two. Your uses is right up and you're pulling down. Hello, here. That is so good.
I should have got my tape recorder out and taped that.
I don't know what's happened. The females are taking over the world. I put on a program at the library here of young fiddlers every year. And this year, I could have had 15 girl fiddlers. I mean, they're all learning. I mean, some of them are better than others, but that's all right. I mean, they run from, say, 10 up to 19 or 20. And I had a hard time finding, I ended up with 4 boys. And I had a hard time finding those. Now, I don't have any idea whether the boys, they've got them off in sports or what the deal is. I'm not knocking the girls playing. They're good. Some of them are really good. But it just, I can't figure out what's going on, you know. I could go to a music program, a different music program, every night of the week, except Sunday I'd have to go maybe on the afternoon. And I could go for probably 2 weeks or more of just the ones I know about and not repeat a single place. And there's way more than I know about. I just know where I've been able to go, you know. So at this point, it's still hanging on pretty good. But the jig dancing, I'd say, is almost the most fragile right now, because clogging has moved in, which is a choreographed thing today. At one time, they called jig dancing clogging, and it meant the same thing. Whereas the jig dance is more extemporaneous, more their own style. They've developed it themselves, usually within families and stuff. Fiddling, old-time fiddling, is still, doesn't have, I don't know what the future is going to be there. And contest fiddling, I don't know whether that'll hang on. I guess it will. But whether all these people that are doing it will stay with it. See, there's the thing.
I think that there's a revival of old-time music, which is great right now. And I think we should carry on the legacy of old-time music. Maybe people are living such a fast life, and the times are changing so fast that maybe they enjoy the simpler things of life and feel more relaxed about it. And back then, life was simple, you know, and there wasn't the computer and the fast traffic and all the things that go with it. So I think people are would like to maybe see what it was like back then, you know, because as I stated, it's a simpler kind of life, and life's pretty complicated these days. I contracted timber ball company to cut a lot of the timber off of the 40 acres, because it'd been my dad's dream to always have a music place to play, and I wanted a place to play. So I had the timber cut and received $25,000 for it, and along with my teaching money and that money, I built a music park. And it was 1992, I think it was. So we just began having different things there after it was built. I wanted to carry on the tradition of old-time music because it's part of our heritage. It's very important to hold on to our heritage, I think, because it's the foundation of this country. So I built the music park.
You know,
The only problem I have with it, and that's one of those things like saying, oh, I don't want to tell anybody about this creek because then they'll come and see it and it'll spoil it. That's what I think. It's like, oh, they're going to start messing around with this. So the music industry is going to jump on this like a fly on a, like a dog on a June bug. And first thing you know, it's all going to be so commercialized we won't even be able to recognize the old-time stuff in it anymore. So I figure we better just sit back and relax and enjoy it while we got it. I can get out there and sing songs right now that I couldn't have gotten by with 2 years ago because my husband and the other members of the band don't care anything about old-timey music, they think. They have always liked 50s, along in that. And that's fine, I do all right with those. But I'm drawn so to these others. And now that it's sort of the thing and everybody's singing them, I don't have any trouble if I want to sing old sad ballads about mothers all left at home and, and her baby's never coming home again. And I do. Mm-hmm. And that's why, because it's been pulled out again and made more popular.
It is our heritage and it is our legacy. And we should not throw out all the old. I feel that we need to weave it into the future because it's the foundation of America.
Very well put.
That's the way I feel.
In the little town of West Plains in old Missouri State, 'twas in the month of April they saw the hand of fate. The springtime flowers were blooming, the world was bright and gay, and no one dreamed that danger would come to them that day.
Fly round my pretty little miss, fly around my daisy, fly round my pretty little miss, you almost drive me crazy. Charlie is a fine young man, Charlie, he's a dandy. Charlie likes to go to town and buy the ladies candy. Fly round my pretty little miss, fly around my daisy, fly around my pretty little miss, you almost drive me crazy.
What you gonna do when the pond goes dry? Sit on the back and watch your crawdads die, honey. Baby mine, here we go. You get a line and I'll get a pole, honey. You get a line and I'll get a pole, babe. You get a line and I'll get a pole and we'll go down to the crawdad hole, honey. Baby mine, honey, baby mine.
How I long for the day when I shall see him, though it be where the angels sweetly sing. He is mine, and the thought of him grows sweeter when it's time for the whippoorwills to sing.
We married in April and lived by the river. We worked the land from the spring till the fall. When the cold winds of winter howled by our window, she couldn't help hearing the wild winds blow. Where the Arkansas River leaves Oklahoma, runs free and rambles muddy and wide. Where the Arkansas River leaves Oklahoma, it's gone forever and never looks back.
A small but strong community of women musicians in the past have directly informed the women of today, who are major forces in both the continuation of old-time music and in the dynamic evolution of its sound. These women recognize the importance of music to community identity as it continues to mediate the conflict between tradition and change in the Ozarks today.
She tried to conquer that wild rage within her, but something much stronger lies deep in her soul. But I know that she loved me, she cried like a baby. That whole winter evening she answered the call. Where the Arkansas River leaves Oklahoma, runs free and rambles muddy and wide. Where the Arkansas River leaves Oklahoma, it's gone forever and never looks back.
You may sing your songs of the Rockies, or the plains roam by Buffalo Bill, but there's nothing better than a cabin at the foot of an Ozark Hills, where you stroll through the lovely valleys and the violets sparkle with dew on the banks of a winding stream. Bid the cares of this world adieu. Oh, I love the hills, the Ozark Hills, where the mockingbirds sing all the day, and the whippoorwill fills your heart with delight from dusk till the dawn of day. You may sometimes stray to a distant land, let it be wherever it will. Although you may roam, be a long time gone, you'll remember the Ozark Hills. We're just plain folks in the Ozarks. We seek neither fortune nor fame. Of course, in the world's bright spotlight, you'd scarcely there look for our name, but we're wealthy in our possession of things that money can't buy. So we'll stay in the good old Ozarks till we go to the sweet